Hey everyone, in this video, what we're going to look at is using Power Query to do an approximate match when we have multiple criteria. And this is a video that was inspired by one of my Skillwave course attendees who actually posted in the forum that we use to support them for how do I apply this to my own world data. So what we're going to look at here, I'm going to hop into our example, and you'll notice over here, I've got a table of salaries of fictitious employees. So we've got their made up names here. We have their salaries that we have going on. And then you'll see there's this other column here called scale. Now, the important thing to understand about this column is that this column is actually only there to show you what these values need to be that we're comparing to. This doesn't exist in the real world, okay? We don't have that. All we have is the salary column. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, based on the table that we have at the right that has all of our different salary grids for different types of employee categories, we're trying to figure out Ethan is a category 3 employee, the salary 2469.33. What is the maximum level for that grid? So what's the scale? It's 2504. We need to look that up here and find the value that is higher than what is in this particular item. So the important thing to know here is that every one of these salaries is going to be less than whatever the maximum value is across their categories. That's the important part to understand. Now, the trick with this though, is how do we make this work? Because the approximate match pattern that I usually use is really intended to say, hey, look in one value column and we'll pull back from a different value column. We don't have that here. We're trying to pull our value from the same column. So let's go and see how I approach this when we're working with multiple criteria. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to hop into Power Query. We're going to go and take a look at our salaries query. And the salaries query is pretty straightforward. We brought in the data. It automatically changes the data type for us. And then all I did was remove that column that I had for demo purposes. So we have our employee, their age, the category that they're part of, and the salary that they are being paid. Again, all fictitious data. Now, that's easy breezy. Let's go take a look at our salary grid. So the salary grid has a bit of a challenge here that we have multiple different grids that have their own values. I am going to need to sort this data a little bit too, and I've got one additional component that's a little bit of a problem here. If you take a look at the step category, it's text. And if I go and sort this in ascending order, it sorts in a textual fashion. Step 1, 10, 11, 12, then step 2. So that's obviously not going to work for us. So I'm going to make a little change here. I'm just going to delete that sort step. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my step column here. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to rename this. I'm just going to call this plain old step. That's a little bit better. Nice. Now we can go add column. We're going to extract text after delimiter. And we're going to extract the text after the space. And this will give me a new column, which is hopefully called text after delimiter. That's kind of gross. So let's just change this. We'll highlight all that and call that step number. No need to do a separate rename column step there. We'll just fix it right in the code that got built. This now gives me my step number column. And if I change this to a whole number and sort it in ascending order, this is now a numeric column, so we'll sort properly. So that's the important part I wanted to do here, is to make sure that I have that in place. Let me just delete these because I don't actually need the data types all set up and ready to go here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the step number column. I'm going to go grab the step column, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to unpivot other columns. And this is now going to unpivot the data so that it is now nicely stacked, which is going to be important for me to be able to do the approximate match that I'm looking for. Now, in our approximate match pattern, important factors. Our columns that we're going to be using to make our matches must have the same names. And this is because we're going to stack the data. We don't actually merge it. That doesn't work. So in this case, I'm going to hop back to the salaries table. My attribute is going to be called category, and my value is going to be called salary. I need these to be the same. So here we go. We're going to call this one category. We're going to call this one salary. Oops, there we go. Got to make sure it's spelled and cased exactly the same. And with that in place, I now have everything I need to do an approximate match. And this would work just fine if I wanted to easily look up and return the step. But I actually want to pull out this value. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You could use this with conditional logic. You can do this, but here's what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and I'm going to duplicate this column. I'm going to right click on this and we're going to go and say, let's go duplicate column here. Nice. There we go. Instead of calling it salary copy here, I think I'll just call this scale. Okay. So that's the grid scale maximum, whatever you want to call it. And you go, Ken, it's the same values. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It is what I'm looking for. Now, last step I'll do here, just to make sure that everything looks good. I'm going to Control A, transform, detect data types. That's going to set all these guys up. I'm not super happy with these two. We go right click, change type, and we'll make this a currency. And we'll replace that. There we go. I'm also just going to hop back over to my salaries table and make sure that my salary here is a currency. That's cool. This doesn't have to be consistent, but if you're trying to combine data types that are inconsistent across columns, it will automatically format as an any. So if I have them the same, it should keep them nicely set up together. All right. So we've now prepped our base salaries table and we've prepped our grid that has all of the values that we want to build our approximate lookup from. So now is the time to get down and actually make that approximate match. Now I'm going to start with my salaries table because this is the general sort of output I'm looking for with my scale beside it. So we're going to start here. I'm going to go right click and choose to reference it. This will make my salaries to, I'm just going to call this something like compare. There we go. And now in order to make my approximate match, we do this weird thing where we go and we say home and we append. It's so weird because you normally would expect an approximate match to be a merge operation. But in this case here, I'm going to do a nice little stacking by adding my salary grid to it. And what you'll notice is that I get a whole bunch of columns on the right-hand side here that have nulls in them. And then further down, we've got nulls on the left-hand side, but where the columns have the same name, they get stacked in place. You think, okay, well, how is that going to help me? Well, here's what we're going to do. And here's the big trick. When you're working with a single column pattern, we actually only do about 3 sorts. And this one, we're going to do a little bit more. So we're going to go sort our category in ascending order. This will bring all the categories together. We're then going to sort our numeric column that we use for our join in ascending order as well. And then the final thing, it is starting to bring it into the right shape, but we have one small problem down here. Notice our step names are all sorted in a wonky order here. So I'm going to go and sort the step number column into ascending order as well. And unlike Excel, these sorts build successive sorts by default. So it's going to sort first by category, and you can actually see the tiny little one up here, second by salary, and then within that subset, third is the step number. Now, at this point in time, I have my scale here, and in order to figure out what is the next step up from 241965, well, it's this next value here, and this is really easy to get. I can just right click, fill, up. And this will now fill all those values up. So that's the approximate match pattern at work here. The important part was really figuring out that sorting and the fact that duplicating this column allowed me to get this one into the right area to make that call. Now, if I didn't duplicate this column, how can I have approached to this point? Well, what I would be doing is building a conditional logic rule off of this to say, if this is null, leave me a null. Otherwise, if I've got a step value in here, pull this value into a new column, and then I could fill it up. So there's multiple ways to get at it. But for right now, duplicating the column gives me the information I need, so that works out nicely. With these filled up, I can now say, look, all of these grid rows that I used to match it, I don't need them anymore. So I'm going to go back to the employee column, uncheck the null, get rid of it. Boom, there we go. We're now down to our employees. And oh, I realized I made one mistake here. Notice my step, it's all blank. I forgot to do some filling there. Let's go back to the filled up step. We're not just going to fill our scale here, we're also going to fill our step. Fill up and insert step. Bingo, there we go. Now we have all our steps. So when we go back to the filtered rows, this keeps the step number around if it's important to me. The step number column, this was only used for sorting. I don't care, so I can just press the delete key and make it go away. And at that point, my approximate match is now complete. On the other hand, one thing I think I would like to know here, salary, I'm going to hold down Control and grab my scale column. Add column, standard, subtract. And instead of calling this subtraction, I'm just going to go right here and we'll rename that to difference. Boom, there we go. We can now see how much short of the scale they actually are, which is great. You might also notice in this, just one sort of last little pro tip on this one before I sort of close out this video here. I didn't bother just double clicking and renaming the column. And this is one of the things that I like to do as I'm going through and building a new thing. I really wish it would actually prompt you to say, what is the new column name you would like? But since it doesn't, and it puts a default in there, that's rarely what I want, I can just find it in the formula bar and modify it. And then I don't have to have a second renamed column step that goes after it. I can just do it while it's creating the original column. And theoretically, although I haven't tested it, that should save a tiny bit of compute power because it doesn't need to create it and then rename it after the fact. Now, having said that, the lazy evaluation engine that PowerQuery uses may be smart enough to handle that, but you know what? Why bother giving it the work or the opportunity to get that wrong? So we'll just do it right up front. And there we go. At that point, the only thing that's really left to do, because this table is going to load somewhere, select a column, press Control A. We're going to go to Transform, Detect Data Type. We'll set all those. We'll fix the two that came in here and got a little bit wonky on this. I always like to have my trust but verify set data types at the end of this. Oh, I think I missed salary here too. We better fix that one as well. There we go. Currency, replace current there. And now we can go say home, close and load to, and we can load this out to a table where we can then go and review the results that we actually have for our employees. So I'm just going to drop that onto the worksheet right about there and say, okay, and boom, there we go. We have our nice table all set up with the differences showing up for me, ready to go. So there you go. That is an approximate match in PowerQuery with multiple columns in play here in order to drive the matching process.